Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're going to give it a second as we allow people to continue joining in the stream, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Live interpretation is available. You can access it by clicking on the globe at the bottom of your screen. So hello, and welcome to the New York Immigration Coalition's Addressing COVID-19 Disparities video series. My name is Nora Melendez, and I am the Manager of Immigrant Services Support Events, and I will be your host. Live interpretation is available in 7 languages, and you can access it by clicking on the globe at the bottom of your screen. Joining me today and supporting the back end of this webinar, we have Kaya Groom, the Immigrant Services Support Events Associate, and Katarina Kundari, the Immigrant Services Support Fellow. They'll be dropping links and resources in the chat as we go, as well as supporting the interpreters throughout the stream. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We will have a live Q&A component at the end. As a reminder, this is a public space. We want to make sure it's as safe as possible for everyone, so please refrain from sharing personal information. We ask that all questions be submitted through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Questions can be asked anonymously. We'll be using the chat box to share links to various resources. If you're looking for additional support, our contact information will also be placed in the chat box and will be displayed on the screen later at the end of the webinar. Please join me in welcoming our presenter today, Scott Ladden. He's a SCORE mentor with over 35 years of experience as a global marketing and business development professional. He has worked across early stage Fortune 500 companies, and his skills include project management, product management, marketing, e-commerce, and business. Thank you for joining us, Scott. You can share your slides on your end.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction. Much appreciated. It's absolutely a pleasure for me to participate in the immigrant program. As you mentioned, I've been involved in corporate America for over 35 years. And in that time, I've also managed to participate in quite a lot of small business activity, both from a family perspective and a professional perspective. So I love small business. I'm very pleased to be working with the immigrant community. I think there's tremendous opportunity among that community. I retired from corporate America back in 2017, and within about 6 months, I became a SCORE mentor. I love it. I've probably touched about 200 clients across all kinds of different businesses, across different sectors of the social economic spectrum. I learn constantly from not only my clients, but also my other SCORE colleagues. So SCORE is a wonderful resource for you. I'll give you a little bit more about that in a moment. But I want to wish everyone on the call every bit of success as they go forward. So thank you for having me. So a little bit about SCORE. We are part of the Small Business Administration, which is a government agency here in the US. We are funded by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, accordingly. And what that means is that taxpayers in the US provide funding to the SBA, and that rolls down to SCORE. So as a result of that, the SCORE resources generally are free of charge to SCORE clients. And so what does that include? Well, it includes one-to-one mentoring, face-to-face mentoring. These days, we're still doing it virtually, but we do email and phone as well. So all of our mentoring is free of charge. So I would encourage you all to take advantage of it where you can. What we offer in terms of skills and capability is across the board. Today, we're going to be talking about a type of business model, business plan, but we also offer just a wide range of workshops, as you can see here. So how to start a business, finance and accounting, contracting with the government, not-for-profit support, and so on. There are over 300 chapters of SCORE around the country, and there are 11,000 more people like me out there who are available to all of our SCORE clients. So I encourage you all to take advantage of SCORE as the opportunity presents itself. So let me move on. What we're going to do today is I'll start with an overview of what the presentation is going to be. So what you can expect from today's conversation. We'll go into the business model canvas overview. So we'll spend a bit of time describing what this particular business model is. Then I'll go into an example of a small business. And as we go through that, I'll allow you some time to think about your business in the context of the business model, and perhaps jot down a question or two for the Q&A session at the end, which is where we'll complete. So with that said, let me move on, because my goal for today is to describe a tool and a process that will help you define a model that reflects the key building blocks of your business. And as a result of that, working with a SCORE mentor or any other advisor, create your own business model at some point. You will have, I believe, Nora will be sending out a template for you to create your business model. This will be recorded, I believe, so you can play it back if you need. But you can always reach out to SCORE and find a mentor who will help you build a business model to help you launch your business. So that's my goal for today. Hopefully we will achieve that goal as we go forward, but that's kind of where we're going to go. I want to start with differentiating between a traditional business plan and the business model canvas. So the typical business plan is a fairly large document, could be 15, 30 pages or more. It's very structured and it's very organized, and it includes financials, but most importantly, it's like any other book. It tells a story. It tells your story about your business. It talks about all of the things that you want to communicate to someone who may be wanting to lend you money or someone to whom you're going to ask for money. So it gives a lot of background on the company, on you in particular. It describes your product, your marketing plan. It provides some competitive analysis. It talks about how the business would operate, and it talks about financial planning. So it's a very detailed, very structured story all about you. What it will do is it will enforce disciplined thinking on your part. In order to write such a business plan, you really have to do quite a bit of research and analysis. It could reveal risks as well as opportunities, as well as strengths and weaknesses in your business. It can show gaps in your preparedness for getting into the business, for starting the business. What have you overlooked? What have you not thought about? So as you write it, you'll become more aware of how the business might function and what challenges you might be facing. But most importantly, it allows you to communicate with considerable detail. And oftentimes, most frequently, it's used when you're seeking funding from perhaps an investor or a bank. The purpose of which is to ensure that the information you provide reduces the risk and exposure and concern that that lender might have about you. So you really want to tell a good story, and you want to do it in detail. And again, it's as much of any other book as you might consider, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. However, what it doesn't really do is it doesn't describe how you will be doing your business on a day-to-day basis. And that's where the business model canvas comes in. So as we go forward, I think you'll begin to get a sense of how your particular business might operate, and again, day to day. So that's the big difference, right? The structured content of a business plan is intended to tell a story that you might communicate to someone who might want to invest in your business, while the business model canvas helps to tell you how you're going to do that business on a day-to-day basis. So let's start with an overview of the business model canvas. And in conversation today, we're going to be talking about value, how to create value, how to deliver value, and ultimately how to capture value. What does that mean? It means that we're here for one purpose. We're in business, and that one purpose is to make money. So we want to be sure that we are able to realize that purpose, and the business model canvas helps us to do that. So what it does is it provides a visual representation of your business. And I love working through this with clients. It probably takes 2 to 3 attempts before the information on this template becomes clear. And I often see the eyes just light up when clients suddenly realize how their business is going to function. It's quite an incredible experience. So there are 3 blocks, as I mentioned. One that describes how to create value in the purple, one that describes what you're going to do, execute in terms of delivering value, and then how you're going to see that value. So there's 9 blocks. We'll go through all of those 9 blocks in a few minutes. I see this as a living document. What does that mean? It means that you're not going to do this one time and then put it on the shelf and forget about it. The world around us is constantly changing. Competition changes, technology changes, laws and regulations change in terms of how we do our business. So we have to continue to pay attention to the world around us. And I often suggest to my clients that once they've done this, they put it aside, but they continue to revisit this perhaps twice a year, perhaps 3 times a year, because the world changes and it's changing very quickly and very often. So change is constant. This is a great tool to help you manage and maintain that change. And I hope that as we go forward this morning, you'll be able to begin to understand how to articulate that and describe it in specific terms related to your particular business. So let me move on, and we'll start with getting into how do we create value. So this side of the business model canvas in purple is all about what goes on outside your business. Here is where you're focused on your customer. Everything you do, everything you discuss, everything you describe, all of your messaging, it's not about you, it's about your customer. And so what we try to answer here is what is it that you do, right? Your value proposition. And who do you help? Now, these 2 things kind of go hand in hand. I often suggest that we start with the value proposition and then look at who we help. But you can start the other way around, which is, who is your target audience and what is it that you bring to that audience? So when we talk about value propositions, what we're talking about is what is the need that you're addressing? What is the want that you're targeting, and what is the problem that you might be solving? So needs, wants, and problems are reflected by your value proposition. And then we say, okay, so we have a problem that we're solving, or we have a need or a want, and the need or the want could be anything from a dessert after dinner to a highly complex software solution. It really ranges across the board. But at the end of the day, we have a target audience. So if your value proposition is providing dessert after dinner, your customers would be any residential people, perhaps in a 3-mile radius, who get hungry after dinner and want to go out for a snack, right? Who want something sweet after dinner, go out for a snack. But your customer who has a software solution could be a very large business. So we're talking about consumer to consumer, or business to business, or business to consumer. All of those sectors, those orientations would apply to how you define your target audience. So I like to start here in this area of focusing on the customer. What is it that you do? Who do you help? How do you reach them? This is called the channels to market. And what kind of a relationship do you establish? And we'll go into each of these individually in a few moments. On the other side of the business model, we have the area in yellow that describes how you're going to deliver value. So you're making a commitment to the customer to solve a problem or resolve a need or a want. How are you going to do that? Are you going to manufacture a product? Are you going to do marketing? What is it that you're going to do on a day-to-day basis? And this is all going on now inside the business. But no business works all by itself. So every business has very specific resources. What do you need? For example, do you need a website? That might be a resource. Do you need financial accounting software in your business? Do you need raw materials, right? All of those kinds of things are resources. Partners, key people that you're going to work with. You might need a web developer. You might need an accountant or a lawyer, a supplier. These are the kinds of people that you're going to need because you can't do this all by yourself. And then the question is, how do you do it? Well, I often tell my clients, close your eyes and think about what you're going to do when you first walk in the door every morning into your business, into your office. What are you going to do? You're going to create a list of activities that you're going to do that day. You're going to send out a mailing for your accounts receivable. You're going to pay your bills. You're going to work with a client to develop a contract. So these are the ways in which you're going to deliver value. You're going to manufacture a product. You're going to ship a product, right? Again, these are ways that you're going to deliver the value. The bottom of the chart talks about the financial side of the business, right? So I mentioned earlier that you're only here for one purpose, and that's to make money. We do have a not-for-profit perspective on the business model, but that's not today. That's another conversation. So we're all here because we want to make money. We want to, feed our families and be successful in business going forward. So there's the cost side and the revenue side. And when we talk about the cost structure of a business, we have to talk about it in terms of what's it going to take to start the business, right? We're going to need some capital, some money to start the business. But then once the business is started, we also have to consider the operating costs. So for example, if I have a website, I'm paying for internet service, right? If I have machines, I have to pay to have them maintained. If I have trucks, I have to buy the trucks. I have to pay my employees. These are all parts of the cost structure. The other side, though, is the more exciting part, which is the revenue stream, right? Where is the money going to come from my customers? So am I going to sell memberships? Am I going to sell a particular product? Am I going to provide a subscription of some kind? What are the revenue streams? What kinds of revenues can I see? And so we have to put those into spreadsheets. So don't believe that because this is a one-page document that you won't be involved in the financial analysis. This is just one part of the conversation. You always need to look at your numbers. We have a saying in SCORE that goes, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. It's tedious, but you must pay attention to the numbers because at the end of the day, making money is good. And making money means being profitable, not just having cash coming in. So we are very disciplined about focusing on the business. So with that, I want to share with you a video that will illuminate a little bit more, illustrate for you a bit more about what a business model canvas is and what it might mean to you. So let me get that going for you.
This is the business model canvas. It's just what Beth and Carl will need to craft a powerful business model, and it can do the same for you. Let's dive in and see how it works. There are 9 essential building blocks that make up any business model. When you get all 9 blocks working together, you'll have answered the fundamental questions any business model must solve. We'll start here with customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the types of relationships you're establishing with your customers and how you're acquiring and retaining them. Pricing mechanisms through which your business model captures value are documented under revenue streams. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model, so you can describe the infrastructure you need to create, deliver, and capture value. The key activities show which things you need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. But once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. Any business model can be mapped this way: 9 building blocks working to reinforce and strengthen each other. But before you make a model for yourself, it helps to see what a breakthrough business model looks like in action, like this one. Low-cost airlines revolutionized air travel thanks to their disruptive business model. Let's first look at their value proposition. A low-cost airline offers ultra-cheap flights to their main customer segment, budget travelers, by adopting a no-frills policy. And this leads to additional revenue streams, because customers pay for their ticket and additional fees on items like food and drink, priority boarding, and luggage. The airlines save even more money through their choice of channels, selling only through call centers and the internet, making for efficient, if not always convenient, customer relationships that are automated and often impersonal. Okay, that covers the right side of the canvas, the part everyone can see. The left side of the canvas is what's going on backstage. Like their choice of key resources, they reduce maintenance and training costs by using a single aircraft model for the whole fleet. And they only fly to cheap airports where it's cost efficient to land, or where they even get paid to touch down. Planes that do land have quick turnarounds, so they get back in the air earning money as quickly as possible. And they form key partnerships with others in the travel industry, like car rental, hotel, and insurance companies. Finally, under cost structures, all maintenance, training, airport, and call center costs are trimmed to their lowest levels. All of these pieces working together make their fares almost impossible for traditional airlines to compete with. There's nothing superior about these airlines except their business models. They're reaching an entirely new segment of travelers out of reach for traditional airlines. Cutting out costs is pretty exciting, right? But wait, just because it's successful for discount airlines doesn't mean it will work for your idea. Luckily, the business model canvas allows you to iterate many models and test them quickly. Let's get started with your own business idea.
All right, hopefully that was helpful to illustrate some of the concepts that I was speaking about earlier. So what I'd like to do now is walk through each of the blocks, each of the building blocks, one at a time, talk about them in the context of a cleaning service, small business cleaning service. I'll pause for a few seconds after each block before I go on to the next, just to give you a moment to jot down a question or two so that you have something to ask as we get into the Q&A at the end of the session. So let me move on. So the first block on the list that I typically like to talk about is the value propositions. So what is it that you do? What value do you deliver to your customer? Which of the customer's problems, and I mentioned earlier, not only problems, but wants and needs, are we solving or satisfying? And what are the bundles of products and services that we're offering to each segment? So in this case, when we talk about a cleaning service, what kinds of value do we offer to our client? So it's a time saving. It could be disinfecting. It could be creating a clean and orderly appearance, perhaps for a business. It could also be emergency remediation. So if a home or business is flooded or has experienced a fire, this is an example of an emergency remediation that might be of concern. Other types of value that a cleaning service might offer, again, makes it convenience and so on. So give a thought to your business here before we go on to the next, and see what your particular idea might have in the way of a value proposition. What want or need or problem are you solving for your target audience? All right. So the next question is, who are you helping, right? Who are your target customers? But also importantly, who are your most important customers? If you're serving a wide range of customers, you may find that some of those customers take up too much of your time, or cost you too much money to service. So you have to give some thought to what is the value that you're getting from your customers. Your customers can be defined by geography, by age group, by income and disposable income. If they're a business, they could be described in terms of the kind of business that they represent. They could be defined by the amount of money that the business earns. So there's a wide variety of ways to describe your customers. We call this demographics when we're talking about people, and we can also call them firmographics when we're talking about business. So it's the way in which to filter or measure or define your target customer base. Why is this important? Well, if your customers are geographically defined, for example, and let's say you are a cleaning service, you may say that, well, I'm only going to drive my trucks a 10-mile distance from my central location. So now I can say, well, 10 miles includes, 3 different zip codes. How many people live in those zip codes? How many individual residences are there in those zip codes? How many small businesses or business parks are within those zip codes? So now you can begin to quantify the market, the customer base. And if we're talking about consumers, what is the income levels of those consumers and how much are they willing to pay for the cleaning service? So this is why it's so important to think about in detail your customer base. So let's talk a little bit about the cleaning service and who we might target. So from a residential perspective, working adults, retired people, elderly people. So folks who need the convenience, they need the service, or they're unable to do the work for themselves. If we're talking about a commercial business, we might be talking about office suites or business parks. We might be talking about a manufacturing facility. We might be talking about a retail environment, say a mall of some sort. If we're talking about a healthcare sector in particular, we might consider private practices. We might consider hospitals. We might consider nursing homes. We can do all of this again within a geographic boundary, and we can apply just a variety of other ways to measure and filter our target audience. So it's very important to think about the customer that you're focusing on and how your value proposition relates to the needs or wants or problems of those particular customers. All right, so the next question is, we know who our customers are, and we know what we're trying to do to help them in terms of solving their problems, needs, and wants. The big question is, how do they find you, and how do you find them? We call this the channels to market. So which ones work best? Which ones are most cost effective? And how do they integrate with our customers' routines? What does that last point mean? Well, if you're doing an email campaign, right, to communicate with your customers, and you're targeting residential people, consumers, you might not want to send your emails out at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning when these folks are at work. You might want to send them out at 8 o'clock in the evening when the kids are put to bed, dinner's been fed, and people sit down and they begin to go through their personal email. That's what I mean about customers' routines. It's understanding your customers to the degree that you know their way of life. What is it they do on a day-to-day basis, and how can you fit into their lifestyle, communicate within their lifestyle, get them to be aware of you within their lifestyle. So I mentioned an email campaign might be something to consider, but there are many, many other ways to communicate. So if we're talking about our cleaning service, well, probably the best one is going to be referrals, right? So if I'm happy with the cleaning service, I'm going to recommend it to my friends. And I might put a promotion together that says, if you recommend me to a friend and that friend signs up, I'm going to give you a discount on your next cleaning service, right? You may have a website, and that website might be a way for your customer to sign up and schedule a cleaning. You may have telephone contact. You may have what we call an outbound telephone contact, right? Directly calling target businesses that may be of interest. And you can get business lists from a variety of sources, not the least of which is your local public library. You may consider print advertising, newspapers and so on. Social media, of course, digital marketing is one of those things that just about everybody does these days. Facebook and LinkedIn are two of those very active social media platforms. But let's not overlook having a business location as well, where people can stop in and where you can demonstrate, your product or sell a product or whatnot. So, from a cleaning service, there are a variety of ways in which people can find them and ways in which you can reach out. So it's a two-way conversation, right? Both inbound and outbound. All right. Now, one of the most important things you're going to do is to create a relationship with your customer. And the important part of that is it must be sustainable, maintainable, because the longer longer you have a relationship with your customer, the more money they're going to spend with you. And so you have to begin to understand how you're going to interact with those customers. What kind of relationship does each customer segment expect to have with you, and how are you going to maintain that? So, for example, an email marketing campaign is a relationship, right? So every 2 weeks, you send information about your business to your customer database, and you want to do that on a consistent basis. Perhaps you're a blogger and you write about a certain topic. That's part of the relationship. So which relationships are you going to establish? And again, how does it integrate with the rest of your business model? So we talk about the email campaign. Well, in terms of having an email campaign, I must have a database of people to whom I'm going to send my emails. Or if I'm going to blog, I must have a way for people to follow me and pay attention to the things that I'm writing about. So any point in time or space that you have the opportunity to interact with a customer is a way of establishing relationships. So when we talk about our cleaning service, it could be transactional. What does that mean? It means someone goes in, cleans the facility, and leaves. One-time opportunity. But nonetheless, when the cleaning person is there, they can create a relationship with the customer. One of the things you might do is to provide the customer with a written survey. How was our cleaning service today? And get some feedback, right? To maintain that relationship, to expand that relationship. If it's a business, you may have a contract with the business. I'm going to come in every Friday night before the weekend. I'm going to come in every Sunday before the week starts. So the contract could be seasonal, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, whatever it is, but it's a contract, and that establishes the relationship that you're going to have with the customer. Customer service representatives. These are probably the most important people in any business because they engage one-to-one with your target audiences. How often have we been frustrated with, not to pick on any one business, but how often have we been frustrated with trying to get internet service or talking with an airline representative or any other kind of customer help desk, right? Customer service representatives represent probably one of the best ways to build and maintain relationships with customers. One-to-one during engagements. So I mentioned, someone goes out and cleans a home, cleans a business. Talk to the people that are in the facility at the time. See if there are other needs or wants that you may be able to solve. Web content is another one, right? So someone coming to your website is going to learn all about your business. And the first time someone comes to your website, realize you only have anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds for someone to really connect with you. So your web content, your landing page has to be incredibly strong and highly communicative about who you are, what you do, and provide some sort of a call to action. A lot said there, but websites, as we all know today, are one of the first places that potential customers go to find a business. So a variety of different ways to build relationship. But the point that I want you to take away from this is anytime you connect or communicate with a customer is an opportunity to create a relationship. And that's critical. So other kinds of relationships are subscriptions or memberships. I mentioned blogs, I mentioned emails. So you want to keep all of these things in mind as you begin to develop your marketing plan. And so a lot of this will become part of other plans that you're going to put together in order to execute and deliver the value that we're talking about. All right. Okay, so now we're on to the other side of the model, the yellow side, which is, as I said, delivering value. So how are you going to do it? What are the key things that you're going to do? So we talked about distribution channels a little bit. What does that mean? So if I have an e-commerce site, someone orders a product, how do I get that product to them? A lot's been said these days about the supply chain and the challenges that businesses and folks have both sending and receiving different products. So how does product flow from you to your customer? We talked about relationships. What are you going to do to execute and build those relationships? One of those key activities could be blogging. One of those key activities could be doing your email marketing, right? Who are the people that you're going to be working with, right? Who are the partners? What are the resources that you're going to need? We'll talk about that in a minute. And what are the associated revenue streams? What we're beginning to see here now is how these blocks interrelate. They're all interconnected. They all begin to inform one another. And that's why it's so exciting when I work with a client and they begin to see how these pieces begin to fit together. It's very much like a puzzle. But once you begin to see it, you will find that success becomes more evident, more possible, and it will identify gaps in your thinking. It may identify opportunities that you haven't thought of in your business. So it's a great exercise. I love doing it, and I hope that you do have an opportunity to build a business model for yourself. So let's take a look at our cleaning service. So what are they going to do on a day-to-day basis to begin to deliver that value? They're going to keep records, right? We all have to pay our taxes, so we have to keep records. We have to pay our employees. We have to deal with our accounts payable and accounts receivable. So we have to do our record keeping, absolutely essential to any business. But we also have to do some marketing. So we have to reach out to our customers. And so we may make telephone calls to try to schedule things. In our website, we may have an online scheduling capability. This is becoming more and more of a standard component to websites these days. We are going to need contractors to do our cleaning. So I have to deal with hiring, training, scheduling, all these things related to dealing with my employees. I have equipment in my cleaning service, right? So I have to, build the inventory. I have to maintain the inventory. I have to deal with stocking, cleaning supplies. I have to deal with distributing some of the product. So a lot of things to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of delivering the value to my clients, to my customers. All right, don't forget to make some notes about your questions as we go on. All right, now I mentioned earlier, this does not happen all by itself. You don't run a business in a vacuum. So you need resources to ensure that you can deliver the value. So again, a distribution channel. So what is my resource in a distribution channel? Well, it could be US mail. right? It could be FedEx. It could be, the local paper boy, right? If I'm doing newspaper delivery, right? What are the relationships that I will want to establish, and what resources do I need? Well, if I'm doing social media, I need someone who knows how to do social media, right? If I'm doing an email marketing campaign, I need an email platform, something like Constant Contact or MailChimp. What other resources, what other partners might I need in this particular business? And what are the costs and the revenue streams that I have to deal with? So if I'm talking about resources and costs, for example, if I'm selling a product, I need to buy that product. If I'm, for example, in an e-commerce business, so I need to source the product, have it up, posted on my website, and I need people to be able to buy it on my website, right? So all of those things become resources as well as costs, and ultimately turn into revenue. So let's take a look at our cleaning service. What are some of the key resources? Well, certainly the people who are going to be doing the cleaning, for example, but I may also have a bookkeeper. I may also have an accountant. If I'm doing contracts, I need a lawyer. I'm going to have bank accounts. So I'm going to need probably some relationship with a bank. So these are other kinds of resources and people. I have to have trucks to send out, or vehicles of some kind. I have to have machines in those vehicles that are going to do the cleaning. I'm going to need chemicals and cleaning agents. I'm going to need personal protective equipment for the people that do the work. I'm going to need some business software, for example, QuickBooks, to help me with my bookkeeping and accounting, and not the least of which I'm going to need an internet service. So it's just a small cleaning business, but look at all the different kinds of resources that I have to deal with. And again, going through this process really brings to the surface these kinds of details. So let me move on. We talked about resources. Now we're going to talk about partners. And in many ways, these two concepts of partners and resources are sort of interchangeable. But these are the people, right? Who are the people that you're going to deal with? So I mentioned bankers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers. These are all people that we're going to need. We're going to need web developers, for example, right? We may need people to, well, we're certainly going to need our employees, right, for sure. But I need suppliers, right? I have to buy product, I have to buy services, right? I may have to pay for accounting services. So which resources are we acquiring from partners, right? And what are the key activities that these partners are going to be performing as part of our business? So again, by way of example, we take a look at our cleaning service. So my partners are my contractors, right? The people that are going to go out and do the cleaning, but they're also my suppliers. So I have to buy, as I mentioned earlier, I have to buy different kinds of cleaning agents and protective equipment and so on and so forth. So I have to source those from someone. I need a web developer. I need social media experts, lawyers, accountants. I certainly am going to need some mechanics to help maintain my trucks. I'm sure you can think of any number of other partners that you might need in your particular business. I should speak a little faster. We're starting to run out of time. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. So cost structures. So I mentioned earlier, what's it going to cost to get your business off the ground? So when we're starting up our cleaning service, we're talking about vehicles, equipment, supplies, and we're talking about operating expenses. So payroll, insurance, fuel, supplies, rent, and equipment, vehicle maintenance. So these are just some of the costs that my small business is going to require. And then on the other side of the coin is, how are we going to make money, right? How are our customers going to pay us? We can do Venmo, we can do checks, right? We can do PayPal, just a variety of different ways to get paid. And those pay structures might include memberships or subscriptions or direct product purchases. So again, we'll go into the cleaning service and we'll take a look. So I can charge by the hour. I can charge by the engagement. I can charge by the contracts, right? I can have a contract for X number of months, weeks, days. I can have a seasonality contract, or I can charge by the number of locations. So a variety of different ways that we can create revenue streams and track revenue streams. All right. This always comes up as a question in conversation. It's not part of the standard business model canvas, but you can't ignore the competition. Competition is always changing. So it's your job to understand who your competitors are. And so what you're trying to do is find out what it is that you are going to do better, cheaper, or faster than your competitors. That helps your customers do what they do better, cheaper, or faster. And we call this the unique selling proposition, the USP. So in terms of our cleaning service, there's really two types of competition, right? One is the direct competition, the same service, same geographic area, or indirect. So maybe I want to clean myself. I don't want to pay someone else. So I'll go out and I'll rent a machine. I'll rent a home carpet cleaner, or I'll go to a big box store and I'll buy my supplies. So always be aware of who your competition is. Shop, if you're in a retail environment, shop your competition. Find out what products they're selling, find out how they're selling them, and find out how they're pricing them. So never ever forget competition because it's always there. I wanted to end with a illustration of something one of my clients has done in the past. As you can see here, it's laid out on a big piece of cardboard, and this client used Post-it notes of different colors to represent their different customer segments. So, you know, an orange Post-it note was one customer segment. You can see that orange Post-it note reflected in all of the different boxes. I want to draw your attention to the left side in the middle where there is that sort of light yellow color in the resources area. What does that mean? Well, that means that there's a list of resources that apply to all of the customers that she's identified. There are some unique resources to each customer segment, but there are some that are common to all. So this is a great way to do it. I've seen clients do it in a Word document. I've seen Excel spreadsheets. I've seen PowerPoints. Doesn't matter what the mechanics are. What matters is the thought that goes into dealing with each and every one of these boxes on a one-to-one basis. So I think I've said enough with all of that. Let me turn it back to Nora and the team. Don't forget that you can request free mentoring at score.org.
Thank you so much, Scott. That was illuminating. And I feel like it really broke down all the different components necessary and needed. We do have a few questions coming in, and I do want to make space. If anyone has more questions, please drop them into that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So to kick us off, and since you mentioned mentorship, actually, one of the questions someone has is, what does SCORE mentorship entail? And how can someone sign up for mentorship?
Well, to answer the question at the end of your statement, you can go to score.org and just click on the tab that says Find a Mentor. It's just that simple. If you know someone in particular, you can request an individual, or you can request it by location, by geography. What does it entail? It entails a commitment on your part and on the part of the mentor. Mentors are all volunteers, and so we dedicate our time to the clients. And I'll be honest with you, oftentimes we go beyond the scope of what a typical mentor requires. We'll do some background research, but it requires your commitment to stick with the schedule. So if you schedule some time with your mentor, be there. If you can't make it, give the mentor some notice so that, again, we're volunteers and we try to schedule our time as needed. So it's a commitment to the time that you schedule, but it's also a commitment to doing the homework that your mentor will assign. We are mentors, we're not consultants. And that means that you're going to do the work, but we're going to give you the resources and the guidance and the tools to help you do that. And why do we look at it from that perspective? because if you do the work, you're going to learn. If I do the work, you're not going to learn. So learning is an important part of it, learning the detail of your business, but it's also making you accountable to yourself to achieve your own goal. And so those are the two important parts, I think, of mentorship. And it's a process that we go through, and it all depends on where you're at in your business life cycle. But we are there for the life of your business, start, run, grow, and even exit as well.
Definitely, learning contributes to the sustainability of it all as well. It really makes it last. So following along that, and I think this refers to when you were talking about cost structure, but how would someone develop a pricing strategy?
Pricing strategies are one of the most frequently asked questions. There are typically two dimensions to developing a pricing strategy. One is the cost structure, right? And so what does that mean? It means what kind of a margin, a gross margin do you want to have? Do you need to sustain the operations of your business, right? So if you're selling candy bars, for example, and it costs you $1 to buy the candy bar, how much do you need to sell it for to accommodate your net profit goal at the bottom of your profit and loss statement, right? So you may sell it for $2, you may sell it for $3, you may sell it for 10. And that begs the second dimension, which is the competition. What are others selling your product for? So you may like to sell your $1 cost candy bar for $10, but if everybody else is selling it for $3, you're going to have a hard time selling that candy bar. So those are generally the two components to developing a pricing strategy: cost and competition.
Yes, definitely want to keep that balance. And then I think this is also referring to, you mentioned updating the canvas. So how often should someone be updating their canvas?
It's a good question, and it doesn't have a definitive answer. As I mentioned, everything is constantly changing. So if you think of all the forces around you that affect change, as I mentioned, you have changes in competition, changes in society, changes in regulation, changes in costs. I mean, look at what's happening with the cost of fuel these days, right? So paying attention to the market forces will give you some sense of when you might want to revisit your business model. COVID was a very direct, had a very direct effect on businesses, because all of a sudden our business models changed, right? We had to deal with people being home as opposed to out and about. And clearly this affected the hospitality business as much as anything else. So paying attention to what's going on in the world around you, how it affects your business, will determine how often you want to revisit your business model and dive into it in detail. Wish I had a better answer for you, but there's a lot. There's clearly any number of factors that dictate the world around our business.
Definitely. And it's all part of like that personal finance, personal journey that happens, right?
Yes.
Another question that we have is, does SCORE offer other trainings? And if so, are they also free to the public?
Yeah, and so again, if you go to score.org, there is just an inordinate amount of resources in terms of templates and tools. I talked earlier about the business plan. Several business plan templates are out there. There are pre-recorded webinars. There are spreadsheets for financial analysis. There are blogs. So just go to score.org and explore and see what you can find. 99.9% of the resources that we offer are free. We also do webinars in our different chapters around the country. Again, 99% of those are free. Some of them may charge a modicum cost of maybe $20, $25, $30, but most of things are free.
That's great to hear. And then following up, someone asked if they're looking for support as a Black-owned, women-owned business, is that available at SCORE?
Absolutely. Again, there are several resources out there that address the individual needs and challenges of Black business owners, both men and women in particular. One of the things we can point you to are different financial resources available from the government. For example, in New York, there are MWBE resources available, minority women business owned resources, grants, and so on and so forth. There are qualifications required, but your SCORE mentor can work with you and help you to understand what's available in your particular community.
Another question is, does SCORE work with independent contractors, or does someone have to be an LLC to work with SCORE?
It doesn't matter. So what you're describing are ways in which businesses are organized. So as an independent contractor, you're a business, you're a small business, right? You may be a sole proprietor, or you might be an LLC. You may also be an S Corp, depending upon what you do. The way in which you legally organize your business is part of the conversation you might have with your mentor. And it has a lot to do with how do you want to protect your business, your personal assets? How do you want to pay your taxes? Things like that. So they're just different ways of organizing the business relative to taxes and protection and things like that.
Got it. And then the last question I'll ask, and if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to email us or reach out to SCORE directly. But the last question I'll ask here will be, will SCORE help someone navigate funding and financial challenges?
Absolutely. Again, we're part of the Small Business Administration. We're associated with them. We are the resource, a resource partner with the Small Business Administration. So we help with the business analysis, but the SBA provides funding assistance, working with local banks to help mitigate the risk associated with loaning to small businesses. So the SBA is certainly available. As I mentioned, different states have different funding resources that are available. And there are also just an incredible amount of grants out there. For example, in Rochester, New York, where I live, there's a Rochester Economic Development Corporation that provides grants within the city. In Phoenix, the city of Phoenix, the city of Tempe, different municipalities offer different small business grants as well. So as mentors in these different areas, we try to stay on top of what's available to us. And again, you can find any number of resources, webinars out on score.org that talk to the kinds of financing options that small businesses have, ranging from talking with your friends and family, to crowdfunding, to bank loans, even into the world of investment banking and venture capital. So we can talk to all of those things and try to find the fit that works for you and your business.
It's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Scott. And thank you everyone for joining us this early morning as well. That is all the time we have today. So this recording will be available on the NYSE's Facebook and YouTube pages soon, and we will also have them subtitled into multiple languages. To stay involved with the New York Immigration Coalition and SCORE, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I believe the YouTube is also there as well. So stay safe, take care, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.